Hello everybody, this is Valencia and welcome to my channel Balloons and Business, where I show you the business of balloon and event decor. So today I'm going to show you how I made this tornado balloon garland. I've been seeing this type of shape on Instagram a lot and I wanted to try making it myself. I don't know if this balloon garland has a technical term, but I decided to call it the tornado balloon garland because it kind of looks like a tornado at the very top. Either way, it seemed like the perfect arrangement for Halloween themed decor. So if you want to see how I made this, just stay tuned. So I purchased a couple of lampstands from Target. They're about $10 to $11, and I'm actually combining the pieces from both lampstands together. I just took the tops off. This is about 8 feet tall, and I'm going to be taking two 11-inch balloons. I'm going to blow them both up. Then I'm going to underinflate them to between 9.5 and 10.5 inches. Then I'm going to tie them together into a dupe. So now I'm going to be using an 18 and an 11-inch balloon for this dupe. So I'm going to blow up my 18-inch balloon and underinflate it to about 16.5 to 17 inches. And then I'm going to blow up the 11-inch balloon, underinflating it to between 9.5 and 10.5 inches. And then I'm going to tie these two balloons together into a dupe. And now I'm going to twist my dupes together into clusters. I'm going to twist together 3 dupes or 6 balloons into one cluster. And I'm going to make 2 types of clusters. One is going to have the 5 11-inch balloons and the 1 18-inch balloon, and then the other cluster is going to have all 11-inch balloons. And when you're twisting your dupes together, you want to make sure you double twist so that the dupes are in there nice and secure. So these are my 2 types of clusters. So now that I have all of my clusters twisted together, I'm going to start off with one cluster, and that's the one with the 18-inch balloon. And I'm going to slide it onto my 8-foot tall pole. I'm going to push it down, and then I'm going to twist 2 balloons around the pole to make sure it's nice and secure on there. Now I'm just moving it around to the direction I want it to be. And now I'm going to add another cluster. I'm adding another cluster with the 18-inch balloon. I'm going to slide it onto the pole and push it down to decrease gaps between the clusters. And then I'm just going to twist those 2 balloons around the pole. And then I'm going to arrange that cluster the direction that I want it to be onto the pole so that you can see that 18-inch balloon. Now I'm adding an all 11-inch cluster. I'm going to push it down. And then I'm going to twist 2 balloons around the pole and then arrange it accordingly. So I'm going to add another 11-inch cluster. And then I'm going to return to my pattern with the 18-inch cluster. Then I'm going to add another 18-inch cluster. Then I'm going to go back to the 11-inch cluster. And then when I get to the very top, I'm going to take a 260 balloon. That's the stretchy balloons that you make balloon animals out of. I'm going to tie the ends together to make a rubber band. Then I'm going to take another 11-inch cluster, wrap that 260 around a couple balloons in that cluster. And then I'm going to take the very top of my little balloon tower and then wrap that same 260 around a couple balloons in the pre-existing balloon garland at the very top. And this is how I connect my last cluster onto this balloon arrangement. So far I used 7 clusters of 6 balloons for a total of 42 balloons. So now I'm going to take a 260 again and tie the ends. And then I'm going to use this to start adding clusters on to my arrangement. So I'm going to take a cluster, I'm going to wrap that 260 around a couple balloons in that cluster, and that's one of the 18-inch clusters. I'm going to go all the way to the very top, and I'm going to wrap that 260 around the balloon that I'm going to be pointing to in the video. I'm just going to wrap it around that one balloon right there, the one right there in the middle. Then I'm going to take another 260 and do the same thing, tie the ends together to make the rubber band. I'm going to take another cluster with the 18-inch balloon, and I'm going to go to the opposite side of the arrangement. Wrap that 260 around a couple balloons in that cluster. Then I'm going to find the balloon, the one that I'm pointing to right there, and I'm going to wrap the other end of that 260 around that balloon. And then I'm going to push it up because I'm starting to create the hurricane look where it starts to get big at the top. Now I'm going to make that little hurricane come in a little bit at the top. So I'm going to add some clusters of 11-inch balloons, only 4 11-inch balloons, so a smaller cluster. And then I'm going to add it right below those larger clusters that I added at the top. So that's the balloon that I'm going to attach it to, the one that I'm pointing to in the center. And I'm going to add these little clusters of 4 balloons on each side. So one there on the left, and then I'm going to add one on the right. So when I add that cluster there, I'm going to push it up into the larger cluster on top. I'm trying to make it not completely even because this is an organic balloon garland, but I don't want it so lopsided. So now I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. I'm adding those clusters with the 18-inch balloons on each side at the bottom. And then I'm going to add clusters of 4 11-inch balloons right above them. So you see, it looks like 2 triangles, you know, an inverted one at the top and then one at the bottom. So now I'm rearranging the balloons to the shape that I want them. So for those of you counting the balloons, so far I've used a total of 82 balloons. So now I'm going to start blowing up these 36-inch balloons, and I'm going to be blowing them up to between 28 and 32 inches. I did want to blow them up bigger, but I got these balloons off of Amazon and the necks are really short. So I would not suggest using these brands of balloons. I normally use like Sempertex or Tough Tech brand, but I needed these balloons at the last minute. So I got these 36-inch balloons off of Amazon, but the necks are so short that I had to release air in order to tie them. So what I'm doing is I'm tying the necks of the balloons, and I'm taking a 260, tying the 260 around the neck, and then tying the ends of the 260 together to wrap it around the balloon in the arrangement. And that's how I'm adding my larger balloons. And again, I'm blowing them up to different sizes between 28 to 32 inches. I would have blown them up bigger if the necks weren't so short and I had to keep releasing air in order to tie the necks. I decided to add another cluster of 4 11-inch balloons on that right side to make it stretch out. And then I'm adding my last larger balloon there at the top. So now I'm going to be adding my 5-inch decorators. So I'm just using the little 5-inch nozzle there on my electric balloon pump. And I'm going to blow them up 2 at a time and just underinflate them to about 3 inches. Tie them together into dupes. And then once I tie enough balloons together in the dupe, I'm going to twist them together into mini clusters. Normally I make clusters of 4 balloons or 2 dupes when I do my 5-inch decorators, but I'm going to make slightly bigger clusters. I'm going to make clusters of 6 balloons or 3 dupes. So this is 3 dupes twisted together or 6 balloons. And then I'm going to take my 260s and cut them in half to save on material. I'm going to tie one end around the cluster and then wrap that other end around the balloon in the balloon garland in order to add those onto the arrangement. And then I'm going to make some other clusters of 8 balloons or 4 dupes. So I'm alternating between clusters of 6 and clusters of 8. At the very end, I did add a couple of clusters of 4 balloons as well. So this time around, I decided to be a little bit more sporadic about the sizes of my clusters. It's not going to be so even. So I'm just adding my clusters. I think that's a cluster of 8 I'm adding right there on that side. Then I'm going to space out my clusters. So you're going to see the 2 clusters on the bottom kind of staggered, 2 clusters at the top staggered out, and then a few clusters of 4 balloons in the middle. And for those of you counting, I used a total of 132 balloons. So here's the finished product to this tornado balloon arrangement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, go ahead on and like it, and please subscribe, and you'll get notifications on future videos on balloon and event decor. And until next time, I will see you guys later.